planter, and I think it has been a huge success.
Good morning. Welcome to our grow room. Today, before breakfast, I think we have time to plant lettuce. I'm going to show you what kind of seeds we're going to plant. Here's where I store my seeds. I don't keep them in the refrigerator. Now this room is going to get warm during winter, but for the last 10 years, this has worked well for me. I do like to store them in little glass jars. Now my top lettuce here in North Central Maryland that I've saved from my own seeds for the last 11 or 12 years is red oak leaf lettuce. I bought these seeds a long time ago from Botanical Interests. That's what was carried by my local nursery. They have a huge display of those seeds. This has been my most successful lettuce through the years, but I have some other varieties. Black-seeded Simpson lettuce. Now, the red oak leaf is a mixture of seeds I've saved through the years. The black Simpson seeded is fresh this year. The other one has fresh seeds added too. There's butter lettuce. And when you order from Baker Creek, you often get a free packet of seeds. And many times that's a lettuce mix. So this is a mixture of those seeds. And it's a variety of seeds. That's how I got the black-seeded Simpson and the butter lettuce from that seed mix from Baker Creek. Now this one, I'm not sure what variety this is. It has these red leaves. Now that we have the seeds, let's go get the other supplies. We've collected the gloves, the seeds, the soil blocker. We have our water, soil, and I like to use ProMix compressed soil. It stores best for me. Yeah, we have the water and we have the tags. Labeling those, that's important so we know what kind. Oh, and trays and a lid. Now first we're going to have to mix up the soil with water. You want the soil for the soil blocker where it'll hold its shape, but it's not too wet. So the soil, it's compressed, so you're going to have to break it up first. I don't want to make too much, because if I leave wet soil in the bucket, then I use it later, it's more easy for it to grow green algae. I have about a third of the bucket, right up to here. Now let's add the water and mix it up. It's going to take a lot of water because this soil is really dry. Make sure you get down there around the bottom, around the edges where it gets stuck. Really mix it in well. Let me show you what I have now. See? Here's what it looks like. When you squeeze it, you don't want it to be dripping really bad. Let me show you under the light where you can see better. Now, I live with arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and that makes using this soil blocker in the normal way a challenge for me. Normally, you're just going to press it down into the soil over and over again until it's really full. But that flares up my neck, shoulder, and my hands, so I have a different way. So my hack is, don't press it down, turn it upside down and fill it, press in the soil until it's really full. Then push it into the tray. So come on, let's make, I don't really remember how many it holds, but let's make some more. Hang on a second. See me better? Now, I was stubborn. Comfortable, you can fit 4, but I wanted to fit 5 because we have 5 varieties of lettuce. Here, let me show you. It's better under the light. It's the beginning of November, the 7th, no, it's the 8th. So why am I planting lettuce now? If you watched our most recent video, I talked about how the last 2 or 3 winters, our ground is never fully frozen. So I want to be prepared if I can keep planting lettuce. I will be covering it with a low tunnel fleece, protects it from the cold. So I want to be prepared. And if I can't, then I want to learn how to grow it inside here in the basement. Now this is the furnace room, and right now the furnace isn't running because yesterday it was almost 80 degrees. I mean, crazy. But later it'll be running full time and this room will stay warm. So the lettuce might not grow too well in here. I'm going to get a thermometer to test the temperature, but I have another room down there at the other end of the basement that we use as a home gym that stays cold. So I thought I could set up a grow light in there and try to grow some lettuce. So we're going to experiment inside growing lettuce, because I only use this room for starting seeds and taking care of transplants until I put them outside. I don't use it for year-round growing and harvesting, but we're going to experiment together. So first we're going to mark our tags and we'll be ready to plant. I tend to put 3 seeds per hole. Then after they grow, I'll save the one that looks the best and trim out the other ones. Be careful pulling them out because all 3 might come out together. But let's start with 3 seeds. Now if more than 3 fall in, that's fine. If you notice, my saved seeds still have some fuzz on them. I don't perfectly clean my seeds, and this isn't going to hurt the seeds. Just make sure there's not any mold. Now, so we've planted our lettuce mix from Baker Creek. We've planted our black-seeded Simpson. That's a really tight, strong-headed lettuce with kind of frilly leaves. We planted our butter lettuce, which is soft. You tend to bite in a clamshell. It's really delicious. And we planted our unknown red leaf from the mix. It has small leaves. Well, I say it has small. I tend to harvest it small, but it is possible it might be a romaine. Now the last, my top lettuce mix, is my red oak leaf that I've been saving for 11 or 12 years. Now many people just leave it like this and water it. But I like to cover with just a little bit of soil to make those really good moisture contact with the seeds. The soil's already moist, so I'm not going to water. Just going to cover it with the lid. It's not going to be a perfect fit, but that's fine. We just want it to hold in the moisture. I'm going to go ahead and leave the light on the timer. It doesn't really need the light to germinate, but once it does come up, I want the light ready. One negative about leaving the light on from the very beginning is it'll increase the amount of algae that you might grow on top, but that's not going to hurt the plants. The timer's set for either 12 or 14 hours. And we'll come back and check on them, see if they've germinated. Should only take a few days. These seeds are really fresh. Good afternoon and welcome back to our grow room. Today we're going to pot up lettuce. It is way past due. Here's what we're going to be using. I bought 2 self-watering planters because I realized that we're going to be out of town for Christmas. Now, by the time you see this, we're going to be back. But I can't just leave the lettuce, and it's too cold to put it outside. But first we need to wet some soil, so we need some water. This is a soil that I like to use. It's compressed, so it stores really easily, but it will require a lot of water. That drained the whole thing. Now the instruction says it helps to fill the very bottom with rocks. Of course, I don't have any. It didn't say anything about that when I bought it from Amazon. But wetting the soil first, we'll see how much we lose through these holes. First, let's put the soil in there. And then we're going to put the soil block lettuces. Remember when we planted these in soil blocks? We're going to put 3 lettuces in each. I think that'll give them enough space. Now there's more than one lettuce seedling in there, so I'm going to thin these. So here's where you add the water in, this little spot right here. Then this is the level indicator. And the top is the max recommended. As the soil absorbs more water, that little meter will go down. And before we're finished, we'll check back again and see how much water we need to add. Let's get the second one filled up with soil. I'm going to have to adjust the lights a little bit. We have a lot of lettuce seedlings left. So let's just use our old-fashioned traditional pots. Now a 10 by 20 tray holds 18 pots. Now we're just going to water it because we don't want any air trapped in the roots. So let's get this filled up. See that second light? I think I'm going to divide these in half and put 9 over there and leave 9 over here to give them more space. It needed more light over here. It wasn't bright enough. Now, when we come back from Christmas, we're going to start some new lettuce seeds. I don't tend to grow inside in the winter, so this is my first time, and we're learning together. Let's check the water level. I'm going to have to figure out what to do with all these other lettuces while we're not home. Maybe I can set up some kind of self-watering, or if the temperature warms up outside, maybe I'll put some outside.
Good morning and welcome back to our grow room. Today I'm going to give you an update on the indoor lettuce. Now remember, 3.5 weeks ago, we potted this up into bigger pots. And we set up this self-watering system. And it looks good. Let me show you. Now, 7 weeks ago, we used a soil blocker to start a variety of lettuce seeds, like these. Now, most of these were my own saved seeds. Now, 6 weeks after we started the seeds, I harvested for the first time 2 heads. 3 weeks after we started the seeds in the seed blocks, in the soil blocks, we potted them up to bigger pots. And these behind me were the last to transplant. These were the smallest. They were really tiny. That's why their growth is behind that other group of lettuce. I planted the other ones first, potted them up first because they were the biggest. But then I realized my husband Dale and I, we were going to go out of town for Christmas for 10 days. So we weren't going to be home to water. So they got the idea to buy a self-watering planter. Let me show you. And it came with 2. So it has water in the base, and then there's a black insert. And you fill that with soil. And you put in your, I put 3 transplants in each planter. Then there's a little reservoir to pour in the water, and it indicates when it has enough. See these blue lines on here? And then it has a little gauge that will go up And when it's at the top line, that's the max of the water. When it's the bottom line, that's the minimum. But then I had 18 more plants left over. So I looked on Amazon and I found the cheapest option. And it was this right here. And this is what is called wicking rope. I think this company called it seedling watering rope. I'll put the link in the description. And it came with 4 of these bunches, and that was 120 feet altogether. And it was so simple to set up. I just used an old dish pan, filled it with water. Then each pot needs its own wicking rope. They can't share. And I just measured it and cut it to length. Then I secured it in place with some floral wire. But you could use like a twist tie or a paper clip, or you could just push it down into the soil. I did notice that the lettuce roots are actually growing in through that rope. Interesting. Now, growing lettuce is important to me because Dale, my husband, is not crazy about cooked vegetables, but he will eat a fresh raw salad every day. And being winter right now, I just can't grow lettuce here in north central Maryland. So I thought, let's try growing it in the basement this winter, and I think it has been a huge success. Like I said, these smallest ones, they were the runts. So they have plenty of room still because they're still small. And most of these varieties back here are actually smaller head varieties anyway. They're a butter variety. These two aren't. But the other lettuce is getting really crowded, so I want to separate those out. And then I'll give them more room, and I can show you how I set up the wicking ropes. We're going to put them over here so they can share the same water reserve as this lettuce. Now these are just the cheap thin trays. So I want to check them for any holes because I don't want the water dripping and leaking out all over the floor. I'm going to triple them up. Now these are really strong, thick bootstrap farmer 10 by 10 trays. They're really sturdy, but I only have the small size. And this year I am going to invest in the 10 by 20 bootstrap farmer trays. They're more expensive, but they're worth it. They really last. If you notice this really thin head of lettuce, that's because, here, let me show you. That's because there was another head in the middle blocking it from the light, and that's what I harvested last week. It gave it more room. Hopefully it'll grow more. Now, the instructions that came with the wicking rope said that each pot is going to need its own rope. They can't share. Like, you can't, loop it from pot to pot. That was in the instructions. Also, that the water can't climb more than 8 inches. So I picked something that was on the same level with the pots. Now, if water is wicking too quickly, tie a knot in the rope, but make sure that knot is in the water. So let's fill up the water for these 3 trays of lettuce and then harvest 2 heads of lettuce for this week. Now, the temperature here in the grow room varies from 68 degrees to 77 degrees. Perfect for growing this lettuce. So if you're thinking about growing lettuce inside, I hope this helps you. Good morning. Look at all that snow. Well, obviously we can't work outside, so let's go down into the basement grow room. Come on. So the basement salad's been a huge success, and I want to start more. Plus, I want to try starting a few beets and some radishes. Now, the self-watering system, like this one in the corner and over there, that's worked out well. I'm definitely going to leave it. But I need to clean it out because since it's under the lights, it's been turning green. It's gotten soil in there and it just needs a simple clean out. And the last thing we're going to do is to harvest some lettuce for this week's salads. Now I have this little area that's perfect over here. And I'm going to use the soil blocker. And after the lettuce seeds sprout, in about 2 weeks, we'll pot them up to bigger pots and give them some space to grow more. That's what I learned growing this lettuce recently. I left them in the soil blockers for 3 weeks, and some of them got shaded by the bigger leaves. And then when I potted them up and gave them more space, they got bigger. Now this is my favorite potting mix, Pro Mix. I either like the moisture control or the organic. I like it because it comes compressed and it stores really easily. But you are going to need to break it apart and it's going to take a lot of water. It took about 1.5 gallons. It's going to vary depending on how dry your soil is. Now you're going to want the soil to hold together, but not drip. Let me show you what I mean. Now, because I have arthritis, I don't use the soil blocker in the traditional method where you press down to fill it up. I like to turn it over and to fill it from the top. That's easiest on my hands. So this is a 10 by 10 very sturdy tray made by Bootstrap Farmer. Yes, they cost more money, but they are worth it. You can hold it with one hand. You know when it's full and it's heavy? I like that I can hold it with just one hand. And I do plan to invest in 10 by 20, the larger sturdy trays by Bootstrap Farmer. What I have are still just the regular old flimsy trays. Here, let me show you this one. You know how you get them all full and they're heavy and you're busy. You just want to hold them with one hand and they break and they fall and they spill. Now I made 20 soil blocks, 5 rows of 4. And I'm going to plant 5 varieties of lettuce, 4 each. Now 4 of these are my own saved seed. I have red oak leaf lettuce, and this is my 11th or 12th generation. I've been saving it for 11 years. Then there's butter lettuce and black seeded Simpson and some type of red leaf lettuce. I think it's a red romaine, but I'm not sure because it came in this free mix. Baker Creek will often send you free seeds with your order, and that's where this came from. So that red lettuce came from this seed mix, but I'm going to plant some of these unknown lettuce varieties too. Now put a few seeds in each hole, and later I'll just thin them out. And we'll just leave 1 seedling per soil block. Now the temperature here in this room right now is 74 degrees. This is our furnace room. And right now the furnace is running. So in the last 24 hours, the hottest it's been in here is 78, and the coldest it's been is 68. So far, this has been a good temperature for growing the lettuce. Now this week, it's going to get down in the teens every night. And I think there's going to be one day it's barely going to get above freezing. So the furnace is going to be running a lot. And I'm curious, will this room get too warm for the lettuce? But if it does, at the other end of the basement under the kitchen, that room tends to stay cold. And I can always set up another shop light down there and move some of the lettuce. But so far, this room has done well. Now let's clean out these water tubs. This one's the worst. Now that's much better. Now remember, I set this up because we went out of town for Christmas and we were gone more than 10 days. And it worked really well. So I'm just going to leave it. And I just used this simple wicking rope. And honestly, I don't know if it's anything special, but it looks like just a simple cotton cord. Now, any supplies that I use, you can always look down in the video description. click the arrow and all that text will drop down and there's going to be links there. And before I forget, these lights are just simple shop lights that I bought from Home Depot. And they're set up on just a timer. Now last, let's harvest 2 heads of lettuce, and then we're going to plant some radishes. Yeah, that's a good size. Now check back next week, probably on one of our shorts, and see the lettuce that we harvest. Then in 2 weeks, come on back and we're going to pot up these seedlings. Plus, check on the beets and the radishes. Now the snow, it was a surprise because it only predicted 1, maybe 3 inches. But I woke up this morning and we were under a winter storm warning. And they predicted up to 6 more inches. So, wow, it was a surprise. But all the vegetables out there are well protected by some fleece. We still have a few beets, but I'm saving those to go to seed in the spring and summer. We do have a few lettuces, but they're really tiny. They're not going to grow anymore till the spring. We also have a variety of greens and some turnips. But for fresh salad right now, we're going to have to harvest here in the basement. Now soon it's going to be time to start seeds. Are you excited? What are you planning to grow? I'll be making a video about my plans too. Let's get this salad up and get it washed before it wilts. Good morning and welcome back to our garden. Today it's 12 weeks before our last freeze, so it means it's time to start some seeds in the basement to put out later into the garden. Okay, let's go down to the basement now and harvest some lettuce. So this lettuce is 10 weeks old. I started it back in November. And these have really outgrown their pots. Let me show you. See all these roots? I've already harvested the outer leaves of these plants. And the middle's what's left. So I either need to put these into bigger pots or I need to start feeding them. They really started to suffer 2 weeks ago. I noticed the leaves were turning yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest all of these. But the ones behind me, can you see those? Let me adjust the lighting here. Those I'm going to leave for now. So this is going to be enough for this week's salads. Let's bring them upstairs and get them in some water. Now another good reason to harvest these now is that the black seeded Simpson lettuce. Let me show you an example. Like this one here, it was wet. Those leaves are getting bitter. This variety has struggled the most growing here in the basement, but outside in the garden, it's really a powerhouse. But if we look at this variety here, look at all those roots. This is a butterhead, a butter type lettuce. I harvested some green ones. Those are still tender and sweet. That's done much better under the lights. But I'm going to try to get a few more weeks out of these heads behind me. Now these are my runts behind me. They were tiny because before I potted them up, they got shaded out by some bigger heads of lettuce. I've already harvested all the best heads of lettuce. And I'm going to compost all those pots of soil because they're only full of roots. Now this is our next batch of lettuce. It's only a week old. It's time to pot it up. Now the cold weather is back and the furnace is running, so I've gotten warm. Had to take off my long sleeve shirt. Maybe you hear the furnace running and hear the popping. This is an old historic house, and we still have those old radiators, and I absolutely love them. Now, mentioning of loving something, why do I grow all this food? Lettuce in the basement, cabbage outside, working hard in the cold. Well, yes, I'm proud we've grown our own lettuce for the last 2 months, and I like saving money, but those aren't my main reasons. My main why is I enjoy it. The garden or the grow room, this is my meditation. When life stresses or worries and distractions, they just fade away in the garden. Research does show gardening is good for your mental health. That's my number one reason, simply because I enjoy it. Now, key to keeping this enjoyable is documenting what's working for me, what gives me pleasure, what makes gardening easier, and what I struggle with, what I don't like, what causes me to have pain and feel overwhelmed, consumes my time. For example, the salad. I learned waiting 3 weeks to pot it up, that's just too much time, that's too long. The small lettuce heads suffered because they got shaded out from the light. I knew 3 weeks was too long, but I thought 2 weeks would be enough, but no. 1 week is perfect because look at the roots on these lettuces. So 1 week is just perfect, and I documented that on my phone. Potted up sooner than 3 weeks. Helps me not to feel stressed and feel overwhelmed or like I wasted my time. So what works for you, try to document that, and what doesn't work for you in the garden, then go review it and adjust how you work on your growing things. I also put down that they grow fast and get crowded really quickly. So limit one tray to only 6 pots. And I use these empty pots just to provide support. Good morning and welcome back to our garden. Now, today is the beginning of February, and if you're like me and you love to garden, spring fever has hit. and you just want to start all the seeds right now. The lettuce, it's only 2 days old and it's already grown so much. I think it's more than doubled. It really grows fast. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. It's still the beginning of February and time to start more seeds. But before that, before we go down to the basement and start seeds, there's some things we need to get done in the garden. Now let's have a lettuce update. They're looking really good. These along here, we sowed these seeds in November and potted them up in December. These are the last of that batch. I already harvested all the big heads of lettuce. These were actually the runts. Now let me check my notes for a second. Let me pick it up here. Where is it? Okay, these over here, they're 11 weeks old. But from the time we potted them up into these 4-inch pots, it's been, it's been 7 weeks. So these are 7 weeks old. I'm going to try to keep them going a few more weeks. Now the new lettuce, it's only 13 days old. Look at that. That's red oak leaf lettuce. It is my champ. I've been saving those seeds for, I think this is the 12th year, 11th or 12th year. I've been growing my own lettuce from my own seeds. We got some other varieties too. And we're growing them inside right now because it's just too cold outside for young lettuce. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today it's time for a seedling update for those who have come up. But look how beautiful all this lettuce is. We only sowed those 3 weeks ago. And it's almost time to start harvesting them. We're growing these inside for the winter for Dale salad. I love all this green here in the grow room. I love this feeling of new life. Have you already started some seeds? Let me know what's growing. Thank you for visiting Withrow Urban Homestead. See you later. Bye-bye.